Welcome back, Mr. Goodberry. The First Star Logistics studio is fully equipped and ready to record.
Welcome back to Bengals On The Brain, presented by First Star Logistics. I'm your host, Joe Goodberry, and this is episode 107. And speaking of our top 100 series, the greatest Bengals of all time, that has concluded, and which means we're going to talk about the 2024 team. And while many of you enjoyed that series and all the comments and feedback was awesome, I appreciate it. All of that is great motivation for me to continue to make content for you guys and go in the space and create new things and talk about old players and new players and whatever else may be. I appreciated the comments is what I'm trying to say. But there were some of you that were ready to get done with that series and get to the 2024 team. So here we are. We have made it. We're 2 weeks into camp. And if you follow me on Twitter at Joe Goodberry, we've talked about camp and battles and what to expect and what we're hoping to see. And we even did a little bit of that here. But with preseason this week, the first game this week, we do have a lot to talk about, and we do have some things that I thought was a good preseason primer, I guess we can call this episode, because the Bengals on Monday released their first depth chart of preseason, and this is a very unofficial thing. Like, to be honest with you, it seems like they have an intern do this, and they always place the veterans in front. So we're going to start with that. And then Zach Taylor talked to the media within an hour of them releasing it and said that Cam Sample will be going on IR with a torn Achilles, which is an absolute bummer. So we're going to start with there, and then we're going to go over the depth chart a little bit and kind of talk about the rosters in each position. But Cam Sample has turned into such a valuable depth player, rotational piece, good against the run, but enough of a pass rusher that you don't absolutely have to take him off the field. I always thought there was a little bit more to his game there that maybe we didn't get to see. I always thought maybe he could kick inside. That was tough to say. And rush the passer from inside a little bit more. And I thought that maybe could unlock him. And we're not going to get that in a contract year for Cam Sample. So that stinks, not just for the Bengals, not for fans, not for the depth of this team, but for him as well. This was his chance to show what he is in year 4 and get a big contract, or at least a reasonable one for a guy that is at least that rotational depth piece that can help a championship caliber roster and team. And that is what he's been. So we'll get to the defensive ends, but I want to pull up first. We'll start with the offensive side, then go to the defensive side and pull up that first depth chart right here. Now, you notice right away, and we'll start from the top, but for whatever reason, they put wide receiver here and then go offensive line. But Jamar Chase, followed by Andre Yosivas, Cedric Jackson, Cole Burgess at the one wide receiver spot. The other 2 wide receiver spots, T. Higgins as a starter. The only thing to talk about here is that Trenton Irwin is still listed as wide receiver 3. We'll have to see if that continues. Again, I think they're just putting the veteran there and giving him every chance to compete for that. We know a lot of the talk, and we're going to start this conversation with receivers. So a lot of the talk of camp is the receiver position. Guys like Andre Yosivas and how much better he may look this year. I mean, camp we'll see in preseason, right? That's going to be something we're going to focus on. How does Yoshi look? Did he take a leap in year 2? And if he has, how important is that for the offense? Because if it is, and we're not just talking about him, because Jermaine Burton has been a talk since rookie minicamp. Can he be that inside-outside guy that allows you to move other players around? Well, Andre Yosivas is that as well. We're talking about 2 guys who can play outside, play the slot, get vertical, and do a lot of damage that way and make plays down the field in the air, which, I mean, if you're getting that, and either one of those guys can be that type of guy, or the combination of them can be that, well, I think that's how you upgrade this receiver room. And that's not to say either that, like, Trenton Irwin continues to make plays. He always has. Him and Burrow are great together, right? He runs good routes. He has good ball skills. He goes up and make plays. Trenton Irwin can help you. But then I think the surprise, or maybe not the surprise, the bonus, because once you get Yoshi and Burton, if they have taken steps, if they can be key players in this offense, Charlie Jones seems to have gone from maybe he's just a return man and a depth receiver to, you know what? He can play in the NFL, and he's showing the traits that he did in college. And that's also being a speed slot type that can go outside and win vertically because he has good ball skills and good ball tracking and can go up and fight and win contested situations despite not being the biggest receiver. So, like, that's good. These are good things. And I think Cedric Jackson has shown up, and I'm interested to watch him in preseason. And then there's always like Kendrick Pryor and Kwame Lassiter. But then I'm interested in Hakeem Butler as well. That's a guy I always liked coming out of college. He had to go to the UFL, XFL, that route. And we'll see if he can do anything in preseason and maybe make a name and get into the practice squad situation. But the receiver room has been such a big talk because we haven't had Jamar Chase. T. Higgins has been here and there as a guy that's franchised without a long-term deal. Jamar Chase without a long-term deal. It's really been on the guys like Yoshi and Charlie Jones, Trent Irwin, and Jermaine Burton, and I think they have answered that call, so that is fun. Sticking with the passing game and quarterback, Joe Burrow so far healthy, right? He's had his days off, and it is what it is, but I think he is shaking off some of that rust. He's going to play in preseason, which we rarely ever get to see. So I'm excited for that. Jake Browning coming in afterwards. Logan Woodside, who was a former Bengals draft pick. Toledo? Where was Woodside from? And then Rocky Lombardi being the fourth guy. So I expect we're going to see like one drive of Burrow, get Browning for a few drives, and then Woodside and Lombardi will take the rest of it. The other talk of the offensive side so far through camp has been the running back position, mainly Chase Brown. And is Chase Brown poised for that year two leap as well? Is he the guy that take the running game to the next step? Because we like Zach Moss. We like that he can make guys miss. He'll get the tough yardage and he can pass protect. He's still listed as RB1, and that may be the case. But I think Chase Brown is going to play a ton and see the ball a lot. I mean, we're talking if it's 50-50 for touches, I would not be surprised. But if you're saying who plays the most snaps, well, Zach Moss in pass protection makes a ton of sense. Chase Brown, though, looks explosive, looks elusive. I think I've seen his workout videos posted on IG and other accounts that you can see the explosion in his steps and how much better he looks from last year to this year. That might be the secret weapon to this offense that helps get it to another level that they've been unable to reach before. The depth at running back has not changed much. I don't know much about Noah Cain or Elijah Collins. We will see those guys in preseason. I bet they'll play a whole ton. And maybe Chris Evans does his yearly preseason showcase where he fireworks, right? Whenever he touches the ball. The tight end room, though, number one there, I don't know if you noticed this, but Drew Sample's listed as tight end 1. That is interesting. And that will be something we keep an eye on and wonder about. Why not Gesicki? Again, is it just keeping the veterans here, the guy you've had the longest, and then putting Gesicki behind him? Gesicki was also day-to-day Monday with lower body tightness, I think they said. But then Tanner Hudson, Eric All, Tanner McLaughlin, that is a strong tight end group. They may have to keep not only 4. I mean, if Eric All's the 4th, do you keep Tanner McLaughlin also? Do you go 5 at tight end? They're pretty deep there. We're going to have to see how those guys play. I expect Eric All to play a ton in preseason, which will be very fun for him because he hasn't played too much because of the injuries he's sustained in college. There's not much to say on the offensive line. We need to find out if Cordell Volson can take a step, has taken a step. In the clips we've gotten, it does not look like it. It looks like he has plateaued to where he is. Let's just say solid starter, but nothing great in pass protection. If that's who he is, well, that can be your weakest link. Trent Brown was activated from the unable to perform list, the inactive list. And we expect them to work him into shape as the starting right tackle. I expect this because while Mims has been really good, the Bengals have shown jumbo sets. And I highlighted a bunch of these on the Twitter for subscribers. I break down a lot of the footage you get from camp from beat reporters and fans that are at the field taking pictures of practice. I will break it down and show what's going on. But the Bengals go a jumbo package, and they've done this. And Amarius Mims kicks to the tight end spot. And it's been guys like Cody Ford and Jackson Carman coming in at right tackle. So when I see that, to me, that's a key that will be Trent Brown at right tackle and be Amarius Mims at the jumbo tight end spot right next to Trent Brown, which, oh my God, they are huge. It really makes Ted Karras and Alex Kappa look small, and they're not small guys. But Volson's gigantic at left guard. Orlando Brown, obviously, that is a big, big offensive line. I'm excited to see Matt Lee when we get to preseason and see if he can win that number 2 job. He has taken some reps as the number 2 center, so keep an eye on that. We'll see if Jackson Carman's developed at all, Jackson Kirkland, guys like that, right? That were last year's or 2 years ago for Carman. See if they have taken a step in their game. Can Deontay Smith, can he do anything? Can Devin Cochran, who's listed as the 3rd left tackle, if he can do anything in preseason? But that's fourth quarter type stuff. But that's why I like preseason. That's why I pay attention to it. Let's flip over to the defensive side and see what we got there. See if there's anything notable. Kicking it off at the top here at left defensive end, because I think defensive end is a conversation now that Cam Sample is out for the season with a torn Achilles. Why is this important? Because Sam Hubbard's also dealing with something, and Trey Hendrickson on the other side is kind of holding out again, right? And not an official one, but none of these seem official, even though we know the deal there. And that puts a lot of emphasis on who the next wave of defensive ends are for a team with championship aspirations, right? You're telling me currently in camp for an extended period of time, maybe all of camp, it's going to be Joseph Osai and Myles Murphy. Hey, you spent a 3rd and a 1st round pick respectively on those guys. So you need them to be good. But number one, you may want to get a veteran into this room, and you may want to get one in there that can play. We're talking about Cam Sample, who's typically getting 300 and something snaps, 330 snaps in a season. Those are going to have to go to somewhere, go to somebody. Hubbard, Hendrickson have already been playing too much. I thought we'd cut them back, give Myles Murphy a little bit more, maybe Joseph Osai a little bit more. And I'm not out on Osai. I've talked about Osai plenty of times, but he's still their 2nd best pass rusher and pass rush win rate over the last 2 years. I think he can still help this team. So what does it mean now that Cam Sample's out? Forget the veterans. They should be ready by week 1. That is the idea with Hendrickson and Hubbard. How do you get better as a pass rushing team? How do you get deeper on a defensive line that's now missing Cam Sample and DJ Reader from last year and 2 years ago teams? Because I know Cam doesn't seem like a Reader type to be put in the same sentence. I understand that, but he was a good run defender for a defense that has some run defense questions right now. So that means Myles Murphy's going to have to play left defensive end more. And he's always been a right defensive end. And even in camp, I was seeing him playing right defensive end again. And it looked like Osai was 3rd string and Cam Sample and Myles Murphy were your 2 2nd strings. Well, since Sample went down, it's been Murphy at left defensive end. It's been Osai at right defensive end. And honestly, Osai must have that kryptonite for Orlando Brown Jr. because he keeps beating him. From when OBJ was with the Chiefs to even now in camp, Osai does what he has to do. And Murphy's going to have to take a step. He has to. We're looking at a lot of these young guys on the defensive side, and we'll see in the depth chart, a lot of these guys, whether they are fighting for a job, whether they're being handed a job, whether there's a lot being put on their plate due to other injuries or opportunity, Myles Murphy is near the top of that list. And him being good is very important to the success and the future success, not just this year. I would have said future before Cam Sample went down. Now he's got to play 500 snaps now, Myles Murphy in total. He needs to be good, and he needs to be good this year. And that's exciting because I want to see it, and I want to see how good he is, and I want to see him in preseason. I want to see if he's got moves because so far I think Amarius Mims has won, based on the clips we see, I think Amarius Mims has won that battle, although it looked like Myles Murphy did have a sack in the end zone on Monday on Joe Burrow, beating Amarius Mims around the corner and around the outside. So that's a good thing. That's positive. Maybe he can settle in at one spot now and do a little bit less and focus on one thing. Moving on to defensive tackle. But I should mention also Cedric Johnson and Jeff Gunter as guys that let's see in preseason and see if they've gotten better or see if the rookie can surprise and Cedric Johnson right before we move on to defensive tackle. But at D tackle, BJ Hill, Sheldon Rankins listed as nose tackle. Interesting. J. Tufele, Zach Carter listed as the 3 and the 4 at defensive tackle. Hey, they spent 2 draft picks, McKinley Jackson, Chris Jenkins. Those guys are on the depth chart, the next guys. But as I think this is more of a case of listing the veterans first because I have seen McKinley Jackson out there with starters at nose tackle. So it's something to watch out for when they're in their 5-2, 3-4 defense, when they're odd man fronts. McKinley Jackson is the guy, although on Monday he was carted off. He hobbled to the side, jumped on a cart, and the trainer took him back to the stadium. Something to keep an eye on. Dominique Davis, Travis Bell, Devonta Maxwell. Can any of those guys step up? Can any of them make a name, make some noise, and make this roster? You have to think if they're going to go with only 4 defensive ends this year, and maybe they go 5, and maybe Cedric Johnson is just inactive all season long, or, sparingly. And they go with 4 defensive tackles. Well, then we got a battle here. And these rookies are expected to make this roster and make this team. What does that mean for Zach Carter? What does that mean for J2 Fele? Preseason, hopefully, will shake all of that out. At linebacker, no surprises. Logan Wilson, Jermaine Pratt, 2 starters. Akeem Davis-Gaither brought back. He's the 3rd guy. He's been out there a lot in sub packages. We've seen Jermaine Pratt coming off the field. Akeem Davis-Gaither being inserted into some big nickel, 3-3-5 type packages too. And then Joe Bacci, main special teamer, back up at both positions. I'm not sure there's anyone here other than Aaron Casey as an undrafted that I'm excited to see in preseason. Shaka Hayward, is he better than last year? Can Devin Harper, who they claimed last year from the Cowboys, can he latch on still and be a special teams guy? Because how many linebackers can you keep when you're primarily a odd man front, right? When you're a 3-4 defense and only you're keeping 2 inside backers, 2 backers start, can you do a lot? And will they still be an odd man front, or will we see more Logan Wilson, Jermaine Pratt, Akeem Davis-Gaither together out on the field? I haven't noticed any clips of that, so that'll be interesting to see. The biggest battle, though, this defensive side of the ball, this side of the ball in camp, is at corner. We know Cam Taylor-Britt, Mike Hilton. Cam Taylor-Britt acting as the corner 1, Mike Hilton as the slot corner, very good player. But what about that other spot? Moving Dax Hill to corner, competing with last year's 2nd-round pick DJ Turner, both Michigan men. Who is coming out on top of there? The depth chart says it is DJ Turner so far. But I will say it does sound like the Bengals are happy with Dax Hill. And I know the guys have given up a lot of plays, it seems, in the highlights we've seen from camp. But you got to remember, they're going against Joe Burrow. And he seems to make a lot of defenses look silly. So I know Chase and Higgins out there somewhat. I know Chase hasn't been out there, so these guys should be able to cover him. But that's why having a great and elite quarterback makes the biggest difference, because these guys can be in great position and it still doesn't matter. Having said that, I think how these guys play defense and how they attack the run could win that job. And I think that's still up in the air. We'll see that in preseason. I'll be interested to see how that rotation goes. Maybe you start both of them. Maybe you don't start Cam Taylor-Britt. Maybe you don't start Mike Hilton. He doesn't need to play in preseason, right? So the guys behind Mike Hilton are interesting to me. It's still listing Jalen Davis, but you know who's been playing a bunch for them, and a guy that I've heard they really like and are really happy with so far. It's TCU's Josh Newton, guy that I wasn't really high on coming out in the draft because I watched his worst games on accident. I didn't know. But turns out he's smart, got the right attitude, got the right mindset, and he's playing all 3 corner positions. Okay, so let's see him in preseason. Go make some plays, young man Josh Newton there, and see if see what he can do and see if he can step up and be that 4th corner. That 4th corner is important, and I'm counting wrong because I guess Dax Hill, if he loses a job, would be the 4th. I'm thinking like the guy who also plays the slot. It doesn't seem like Dax Hill is getting any slot opportunities, and I think he'll be good inside. But they have Jalen Davis, who they like, who's been a Mike Hilton understudy, and then now Josh Newton's getting those snaps. I don't know if we're ever going to see Dax in the position he should be playing. So can Newton be active on Sundays and be that next guy off the bench, especially when it comes to the slot and maybe even potentially the boundary as well? The safety room. It's interesting to me because I think what we've seen so far is good play out of Von Bell, good play out of Geno Stone as a true free safety, but we haven't seen anything out of Jordan Battle. Is Jordan Battle going to have to take this job and take snaps and take a rotation by force in preseason? I'd like to see it. The other one is Dijon Anthony, undrafted, Colin Johnson, same school, Ole Miss. Seems to keep getting his hands on passes and intercept them and have the right. Again, same with Josh Newton. Dijon seems to have the right mentality and intelligence to get a chunk of plays carved out for him to get out there with the big nickel type number 1 defense package to where Dijon Anthony's been able to intercept Joe Burrow. So those are good things. And I think Tyson Anderson still has a role as a special teamer and one of the best special teamer, if not the best on the entire team. That makes the safety room pretty loaded if those are your 5. So if you're saying we want to keep 5 at safety, Vaughn Bell, Geno Stone, right? Jordan Battle, Tyson Anderson, Dijon Anthony. If those are your 5, you can only keep 5 corners then. And if we're saying Cam Taylor-Britt, Mike Hilton, DJ Turner, Dax Hill, is Josh Newton worth keeping over Jalen Davis? I think he is, and I think that's why Josh Newton is getting those slot snaps to make sure you've got a guy there if you need it. And plus, Dax could probably do it in a short notice if something would happen with Mike Hilton, right? So that defensive depth chart, they've got some questions. I think the answers are mostly on the roster. You've drafted defensive ends in Osai and Murphy. You've drafted corners in Dax Hill and DJ Turner. They have to just be that. You've drafted defensive tackles now, Chris Jenkins and McKinley Jackson. You need these guys to step up. You need these guys to develop. You need them to be players for you. And if they are, and half of them are, you've probably got a solid defense, if not better defense than that. So a lot hinging on that. We're going to watch the development of these guys and see how good they can be. And we're going to watch special teams as well. Special teams, we got a 3-way punter battle. Who's going to come out on top? Let's take a look at that depth chart real quick. The spots that are locked up: Brad Robbins, no. Evan McPherson, yes. Cal Anamitis at long snapper, yes. I'm going top to bottom. Sorry, I didn't mean to confuse you when I said Brad Robbins right away. Holder, they only list Brad Robbins as a holder. I don't think it matters. But punt return so far: Charlie Jones, followed by Trent Irwin. Kick return: Travion Williams, Chase Brown. Those are your 1 and 2. That'll be interesting for Chase Brown for sure. Is that another way to get him more touches? The punter job is what we're talking about. Brad Robbins, Austin McNamara, the undrafted guy they signed this year. Those 2 were thought to compete for it. All of a sudden, they signed Ryan Recco, who was a guy I was drafting in mock drafts in April at the end there. And I think Dane Brugler, final mock draft, had the Bengals taking him in the last round. Recco has an absolute cannon for a leg, and that's all I really care about. Can he hold, number 1? Can he two? And number 2, can he launch bombs from his foot? And Ryan Recco can do that. So I'm excited to watch those guys. We're going to have a punter battle. We'll have a full episode breakdown punters. We won't, but that could be interesting. We could clock hang time and look at ball placement and watch how they hold. If we can ever get a really good view of it, hey, preseason producers, if you're doing that, give us like a zoom in on these guys holding the ball and putting it down. And I'll digest it and analyze it and regurgitate it for the people, because that's what they want. They want regurgitation of holding balls. Okay, we've gone too far and gone too crazy on this episode of Bengals on the Brain, presented by First Star Logistics. I want to give an overview of that depth chart in the roster and what we're looking at 2 weeks into camp, on the verge, 5 days, 4 days from the first preseason game, and get a feel for this roster. I assume the next episode is going to be a little bit longer, as we finally will have some things to talk about. We got to figure it out, though. Do we have a Friday episode, or do we wait until the game is played and try and put it out afterwards? We'll figure it. We've got a couple days. Until next time, Hooday.
Dave Lapham here, and every day I am grateful for my experience to have played professional football. As a player, I realize self-motivation, leadership, and appreciating your teammates are key. At First Star Logistics, you can use those same attributes to create the life you want for you and your family. Build your future by working hard like I did. You'll see results both on and off the field. Call First Star Logistics today and be part of our winning team.
Opportunity knocking.